We should be solid, guys. We should be solid. We should be solid. All right, as you guys come back in. All right, guys, thank you for coming back. Let me know if you can hear me. You guys can start talking. Wow, this is like a mess, like with YouTube, man. They are making me crazy. I am going against their significant recommendation, and I'm just going to do this live like this. I don't really care. It's frustrating. I do apologize that I've been popping in and out. I am back now. It should be totally good. Yeah, should be good. Who's there? Style Audit or YG, let me know. I'll give you guys a wave. Another hello. I can't even see properly. Is it the sun? I'm not sure. Are you guys seeing my wave? Okay, did you see my wave? Okay. I feel like it's like one of those days at the end of the summer. I've gotten so much sun that like my phone kind of takes away from the color, but even in this chat, my face looks really really dark. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. But where I'm telling you, yes, I'm taking you guys to the edge of the ocean. You will see one of the most beautiful spots. Very underappreciated. Underappreciated. Interesting how stay with me, guys. I'm gonna do one more thing really quick just to I'm here, guys, by the way. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. It's the effects are being weird. I'm trying to fix the okay. Okay. Let me know if you guys are with me, and then I'll start again. I don't know if you guys saw the post that I made. I put out a very specific post. It was important to me, and I really wanted to address this. I waited, as I was told. I was given information that there was going to be a discussion by some of the bigger channels who cover this stuff on a much more significant level. They have more info typically than I'll ever have regarding these situations. For some of them, it's very much their daily job, which is beautiful. That's awesome. Good for them in a good way. I really mean that. In this case, as you guys know, anybody that's been following me, you guys are aware that I have relationships. Oh, Amy just said she can't come in. That's fine. I'm going to mod one of you guys soon too. Probably mod like the 5 of you, YGs and Style Audit, and yeah. And Style Audit or YG or YG123, anybody that, you know, knows me really well, or any of the other ones too. Some of the other ones that haven't shown up in a while, feel free to let people know as the chat progresses that today I'm going to try to stay on task. And then I really want to have a real Q&A, like a real something that I have not done yet. This is something brand new that I'm willing to do, which is actually discuss, you know, the beliefs and spirituality and what does religion mean and all that type of stuff. I want to be able to have that conversation with you guys. I'll start off with asking, did anybody see when Natalie and Aaron, or Aaron, they did a stream together, and they discussed on a pretty significant level their differences in opinion, which were not that significant, but in my opinion, they actually are very significant. What I mean by that is it kind of sounds like there's not much of a difference in each one of their opinions, but those slight differences that do exist are actually quit fuzzing around, I know, are actually how do I say it? They're more significant than typically in a situation where it would sound like they're kind of both saying the same thing, some small difference. It's actually a pretty significant difference from the way, in my opinion, the way that Natalie approached this topic versus the way Aaron did. And I am not here to critique them on how they do things or their beliefs. It will never matter ultimately. Even if, let's say, I wanted to change the beliefs of someone, ultimately, I have no power over that. And I'm full recognition of that, and that's totally cool. But what I wanted to point out was there's a significant perspective that sometimes people have, and they might not realize that, like, the very things that they have to say, the very points that they have to make, all of those things are sometimes within the context of significant cognitive dissonance. Look at the birds, guys, it's so beautiful. So cognitive dissonance essentially is what separates what somebody would consider a contradiction versus two beliefs that conflict with one another, and therefore it sounds like they're each saying something. They're saying something that sort of contradicts and I'll give you guys a great example. It's not contradicting. I'll give you guys a great example. I grew up in the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community. I eventually ran away from home, essentially, okay, and rebelled or whatever it was. Never was I like angry at my religion or anything like that. It was, I had like these two forces that were pulling at me on a significant level, okay? I had one force that was pulling on me saying, I do love this. They're very like, you know, it's such a beautiful experience to have the opportunity to have these amazing discussions with such brilliant people and so on and so forth with regards to religion. There are so many things about my religion that I love, both within the context of the racial component of my religion, where it's like your mom's Jewish, you're Jewish, and the pride that I have with that, and the religious part as well. I really was very proud growing up to be a religious Jew. I really was. An Orthodox Jew, an ultra-Orthodox Jew. Now, like, it started happening in about 11th grade, but all of a sudden I felt like this pull to see the world. I wanted to, like, get out of this little box that I had been in, and I wanted to see the world. That's what I really, really wanted to do. And then it's pretty significant that I have these two beliefs. It's almost like two belief systems. One is saying, go see the world. You know, like, come on, this is not everything. You've been like this your whole life. You got to go see stuff, you know, whatever. And then there's the other pole that's like, I love my rabbis. I love my classmates. I love high school. I don't want to be a dropout. So it's two conflicting beliefs. And then I start to rebel. Now, it's not a contradiction for me to say, I do love the school I was in. I do love the rabbis. I do love my classmates. And then on the other hand, I do want to run away. I do want to do things that are extremely rebellious and very unsafe. At the same time, I love both of those things. And, you know, I was older teenager when the real cognitive dissonance kicked in. It's so much wavier here because this block is a natural thing that they put all these stones. That's why it cracks, because the water right below it eats it up. Anyway, my point is that cognitive dissonance is an extremely significant concept that anybody experiences if you're part of any form of a control group, whatever you want to call that, okay? And I'm using that word to include any. So in that context, you could say Christianity, Judaism, Islam, all of the major religions. And you know what? Scientology is also a group. Now, obviously, there's a significant difference between the ones that I mentioned in Scientology. But for the purposes of just expressing this one thing, I just want to say, if you're an individual that grew up in a religion or a cult or anything like that, your perspective on the world is skewed compared to other people. That doesn't mean you have a worse perspective than they do on life. It doesn't mean that they're more correct about the way that they view the world than you are. It just means that you have two completely different experiences going through life. So different to the point where you start to see other people in whatever light that suits you specifically. And this is not a conscious experience. This is not like a conscious, like, some of it might be conscious, but a lot of it is just like so embedded in your brain that it is what it is, and you cannot get away from it, and you cannot, like, you know, there's nothing you can do to really run from an issue at hand, to really try to get away from specific issues that come up. And you end up having a perspective, and if this is not in a bad way, but you can end up judging people in a way that in your brain, you're not thinking you're judging them. You're like, I'm not judging them. I'm just being honest. This is just my perspective. I'm not judging them, but on some level you are judging them. So I know that I experienced this, so I'm speaking for myself, okay? Now, obviously, I'm talking about a couple of other people by saying this, but I want to be very clear, okay? I cannot speak for anybody else. But what I could say is my experience within the context of growing up a certain way and then viewing the world, I know that I view the world differently based upon my personal experiences. And therefore, I view other people and their actions based upon all of my experiences and my actions. Whatever those experiences are, whatever those actions were in my life, they then begin to affect anybody that I interact with. It's just not something that's, you know, it's not something that's that complicated to understand. You end up with this very skewed, guys, look how crazy this guy is, wow. You know, you end up with a significant, you end up with a very significant experience within the context of experiences with regards to your relationships with other people. So, for example, if I see somebody that's utilizing religion in a way that I think is propaganda, I get really frustrated really quick. And then I might take a step back and try to look at it from their perspective, try to understand the person that's saying it, try to understand all the things that they've been through, and then look at what they actually said, because what they said is not always as significant as who said it, why they said it, and what caused them to say it. Okay? So anytime there's an action or a comment made and I feel very strongly about it, I feel, for example, that's horrible, you're abusing, you're whatever it is that I'm thinking, it's a very natural experience to have when you experience cognitive dissonance due to two conflicting beliefs, two conflicting sort of loves that you have for various things, and you end up with the dissonance. You end up with this separation between a real open mind versus a mind that will always view things through their lens, and just recognizing that. So for example, there will be times where somebody will say, like, let's pretend I say about somebody, well, you know, I rebelled because da-da-da-da-da, but when they rebelled, it's not the same thing, and I had my reasons, and it's not the same thing as other people with their reasons. And sometimes you have to take a step back, and you have to realize, like, wait, how do I know? Just like I had my reasons for rebelling against religion, and I hate that I'm comparing this to Scientology, because obviously one destroys families, the other is a religion that you could believe in or not really believe in, and nobody disconnects from you, and nobody forces you to do anything. Ultimately, it's for real your legit choice. If you choose to listen to a rabbinical figure or a religious leader in any way, shape, or form, it's a choice you're making. Nobody's forcing you to do that, and nobody's trying to change your mind around so that that should be the way that you view the world. Not at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They want you to experience whatever it is that you have in life going on, and they want you to look at that fish. Look at that, guys. That's a big one. It's a big boy. You guys see this? Fresh cut. Look at this. Wow. What is that? Is that a alba? The what's the name? What? Drum. Beautiful fish. So cool, guys, where I'm at right now. That's all I can say is so cool. But I want to get back on task. So what I want to express is that I was happy that Natalie and Aaron had a conversation, because when they started talking about Mike Shinoda in Lincoln Park, you know, I immediately, my brain goes to the fact that I just know how amazing these people are, right? Now, I don't know Emily Armstrong. I don't know anything about her past besides what I've been told, and I do believe it, you know. But at the same time, I think that what Natalie was pointing out was sometimes you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know the consequences. You know, let's exaggerate for a moment and say, if she were to denounce Scientology, her life would be on the line, right? Let's just say that might be true. So that would obviously give reason for that individual to stay away from making such comments, right? It only makes so much sense for a person to act the way that they do with regards to how they do it. You know, it's just not something that people can, you know. Can I ask you for a quick favor? Excuse me? Can I ask you a favor? Guys, stay on. I'm coming right back. Hold on one second, guys. Hold on, guys. I'm back. I am back. Show me that fish in the middle of dying. Oh, I'm sorry. By the way, guys, I'm sorry. That was intentional for a moment that I left you guys hanging. So, you know, what I want to express is that there is this concept of cognitive dissonance, and the concept of cognitive dissonance has such a significant effect on your life if you've ever been part of a religion or part of a control group, and then you leave that group on the way that you kind of view yourself and your experiences, and you, without intentionally doing so, you're actually saying, well, this is how they should behave. They have no reason to behave otherwise. You guys know that I am all in when it comes to shutting Scientology down. And if I were to ever find out that Emily Armstrong was like just playing safe and not like saying something just because, and she really could have an effect on saving kids in Scientology, if I were to find that out, absolutely, it's almost like no questions asked, I would say she was abused too, but ultimately that doesn't matter. And it really doesn't ultimately matter. You know, it's not exactly about her life necessarily. It's her experiences based upon a life that she's lived, and you have other people that feel like, oh, I can connect with you because listen, no matter how many classmates I had, each one of us was very different. Our parents were very different people. I think sometimes in Scientology, if you've ever been in Scientology, you have this view, just like, and I'm admitting that in any religion, this could happen as well, a little different, but it becomes a little bit, people would think like, oh, you judge them less. It's actually not true. You typically, studies show that people that leave control groups, typically, again, this is not like in all the time or whatever, typically they feel strongly about how other people deal with that control group. They feel very strongly about it. They have a tremendous, just a tremendous, Jack, you did. It's my full name at yahoo.com. So just to quickly get back, I'm sorry. I know that I'm not rumspringing, by the way. That's a good one. Yeah, I like that. My point ultimately is that you have to view everybody's actions and their perspective based upon the fact that you don't know what their experiences are. Now, let's use Tom Cruise as an example. We know enough about Tom Cruise and his life to be able to say, this guy's a real piece of garbage. Excuse me for saying it. But, if, again, I'm not saying it like on a personal level. I don't know him at all. But ultimately, if you gather as much information as you can regarding him, you come out with the conclusion, this is not a person that you want to emulate. This is not a person you would want kids to look up to. This is not a person that you would want your children, your siblings, your family to look up to, okay? It's very easy for me to look at it and say that very clearly with Tom Cruise. Other individuals that have their own personal experiences very often are judged based upon, Jack of Trades, I did not get the email, but send it again. Again, it's my full name at yahoo.com. And I'll check, Jack, I'm going to check my, you know what, Jack? Oh, look at that, guys. You can see the city. Jack, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check my, trash box, and, I'll take another look to make sure that, that I got it. I will get back to you, Jack. I will get back to you. But what I want to say is, very simply, I actually got through. I'm not at this point going to be getting an interview. It's not something that was put in. I'm not in a position to do it. I didn't know. I thought maybe, whatever. But I did get info. I was given a certain amount of information that is extremely significant. And that is the fact that I was told very specifically that there are things about Emily Armstrong and Emily Armstrong's life that very few people know about, and she's in a position where it would be detrimental for her to do, let's say, what everybody else wants her to do, whatever that is, what everybody else expects her to do, whatever that is. she's in a unique situation. And I bring this up mostly because I feel like it was discussed. I do have respect for the people that were in Scientology. I have respect for the people that got out of it. I respect for those people that are knowledgeable and capable of speaking on the subject. By the way, guys, I'm going to take a 10-second break. I literally just forgot to say this one prayer. But I want you guys to talk amongst yourselves as to information that you guys got about Emily Armstrong, okay? Juanita, stay in. I have to say a quick prayer. It's very important. Juanita, you might want to catch up on what I was talking about. I think you'll like it. And I'm saying a quick prayer, so you have some time. Maybe just take a moment to catch up. I'm right here, guys. Keep it up. I literally probably about 20 more seconds. Okay, guys, I'm totally back. All right, you're floating. You see a floating city. That is what it is. Okay, let me just go back. Juanita, the Jack of Trades, the name is Ross. Okay. I will. Look, Jack. I will. I'll check it out. Trust me. And you could always leave me a message on my page, just like putting your, well, that wouldn't be, I don't know how you could direct message me. We'll figure it out. She holds the power right now. Maybe she doesn't see it. Okay, I understand what you're saying, Style Audit. I will touch upon that. Natalie has said if his music did not coincide with Scientology principles, she may have quit. Bottom Cruise's movie must be okay by Scientology as well. Or, as you say, a compromising moment. I see a floating city. Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, the bottom line is that the cognitive dissonance that occurs, though, I'm looking internally at myself. The cognitive dissonance that I have when I think about other people and the way they reacted to the way I grew up, it's impossible for me to get away from my own mind and my own situation. Whether my family was a certain way, how many siblings did I have, what were the rules that I grew up with, all these different things are going to affect the way that I look at other people and other things. That's just the bottom line. That's what happens. That's life, especially if you grew up in something controversial like Scientology. I say this on a personal level, but if I wanted to, we can get professional, like on a professional level, we can get into this. Again, I really only feel comfortable talking about it because everything I'm saying was discussed by Natalie and Aaron. It was discussed by them. I might be expressing certain aspects of what they said, but I want to point out as well, I'm willing to admit that my own perspective of the way that they're looking at the situation, of them looking at the situation, of so-and-so looking at the situation, is also based upon my own experiences. It's also based upon my own relationships with significant people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the bottom line, okay? At the end of the day, I can't run from that. It's not something I can ever run from. It's who I am, it's the way I am, and that's it. It's not something that I can change. And I just feel, I think I took it a little personal, which I'm sure you guys recognized, but it wasn't like personal, like, don't talk bad about my friends. It was more like M. Shinoda and his music literally saved, I'm not saying I would have committed suicide at that moment, but it saved my life within the context of living. Like, his music literally had a profound, especially Fort Minor, had a profound effect. I'm going to put in the chat one of these days the exact link to a very specific video if you want to understand who he is. But my point is that it had such a profound effect on me that what I'm trying to say is M. Shinoda, Chester, those guys, they actually, and especially Skylar Grey, they actually, not only were they not compromising for, younger generations or whatever it is, they had a profound effect that almost anyone would agree was extremely positive. Doesn't excuse anything if something came up and they did something wrong. I'm not saying that one excuses the other. That's not what I'm saying. Okay? Yes, we must, subjective from objective, we must. It's something that as human beings, if we don't do, we're being dishonest to ourselves. And who wants that? Right? I mean, who wants that? So the bottom line is that, ultimately, what do I want? I want everything in the world to be perfect. But if I'm going to have somebody affect the way that I see certain things, and then I hear other people addressing that same topic, I'm going to naturally feel a certain way about it. Mike Shinoda literally gave me life at a time when I needed it most. The Counting Crows, there's a few bands, and there are some Jewish ones that you guys wouldn't know of, but, Noah Gunderson, Counting Crows, I can name you so many, Eminem on many levels. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I'm really happy that Natalie pointed out that, like, 1 second, we don't know exactly her situation. We don't know exactly if it's complicated. And I'm not allowed to express the conversation that I had. I wish I could. It was my goal. Maybe it'll still happen. Maybe. But I don't mind discussing with you guys the part of it that is 100% inside info. I was essentially told that no one knows exactly what's going on with her. No one knows besides a couple people, whatever it is. And they're not willing to put her on blast because it will affect her and other people. All of us can easily come to a conclusion based upon that specific message that I received, that there are things that we just don't know about. And it's not her just saying, screw this. Listen, there's no defending Danny Masterson, right? But I think if you guys want a better source than myself, Laura will tell you that, there were people that she knows of that hung out with Danny Masterson that didn't even know about it. You know what I mean? Or some people maybe did know and were scared to say. Whatever it was, there are people that have experiences that are a certain way. No excuses. Danny Masterson deserves what he got. And it is the way it is. But there's no defending him. I will say that. But I think that sometimes it's like, I'll say about myself in my own community, sometimes I'll be telling other people about kind of the way that they should view things. And I'm literally doing exactly what I don't want other people to do to me. I'm literally saying things in a way that I don't want people to ever say to me. So let's say with regards to Judaism, it's not comparable to Scientology, but let's just say regards to the religious aspect of Judaism, I think about so-and-so, Mr. B, right, in the way that I think. And in that very moment, I'm doing to him what I hate that people do to me. Dr. B is ... That's, they're talking about me. And then I say Mr. B is ... I'm doing the same thing. I know my own experiences. I know what I've been through. I know why I had to do things the way I did. And these people have the same thing. Aaron and Natalie both express on a significant level how they had to do things so meticulously and they had to be so careful as to the way they did things because it could have destroyed their and their families' lives. And no matter what the world wanted from them at that moment, their mind is solely on, I need to save my family. And that is 1,000,000,000%. 1,000,000,000%. No, I know Laura didn't know. Twila, okay, please, God, I better not be misquoted on that. That's not what I was saying. Laura had no clue. I'm a fan of all these people. Don't get me twisted. What I'm saying is she knew Danny Masterson. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything else. I'm just pointing out that people end up knowing somebody that doesn't. Of course, I don't think Laura held back information. I'm just saying she actually spoke about it herself. You could go look at what she said. I loved what she said. I think she came out in a phenomenal way. I think she expressed herself perfectly, and I would take her word for it, and you don't have to worry about my word. I'm trying to be careful here. I'm not trying to judge other people. I'm trying to say that we all need to not judge other people, you know? And thank you, Juanita. I know that Laura didn't know. By the way, guys, I really hope I don't get misquoted with that one. My point is simply, I'm talking about people that I consider not friends. I consider them mentors, and I also consider them saviors. People that literally go to hospitals, visit sick people, trying to make them feel better about their lives, writing music about pain and suffering so that they can connect with other people. It's a significant relationship that people have, especially if you've met those quote-unquote heroes who have done things for you. I can tell you that Counting Crows, Mike Shinoda, because I'm not saying Linkin Park, because it happens to be, it wasn't Linkin Park that really got me, but Mike Shinoda, M. Shinoda, the Counting Crows, Noah Gunderson, Bob Dylan, Eminem. I can name you a bunch of people that literally helped me get through parts of my life that were crazy. When I was run over by the bus, right, it was right before December. All the surgeries that I had, it was a long December, right? Famous song by the Counting Crows. I already loved the Counting Crows, and it was crazy that I knew that song. And then I got to meet them years and years ago. Just unbelievable human beings as well. But my point is simply that we just need to be careful before we judge other people and the way that they're dealing with things. That's all I really want to say. And I'm scared that I didn't express it in the best way. What I will say in culmination with everything that I did just say, I will say that, let me just think of a way to word it. I will say that I feel more significantly strong about don't judge other people because you don't know their situation at this moment than I do on a typical day or a typical period of time. But these are moments and times where I'm reminded of the fact that I cannot judge other people and their actions because I don't know their experiences, because I don't know what they're going through, because I don't know anything about them besides what my little mind says, what my little experiences were. That's all I know. And to pretend like you have a better understanding of like how to deal with getting out of a cult or whatever, or rebelling from a religion or whatever it is, to pretend like you know better than somebody else. It's not even a matter of like, well, I know the best way, this is the way to deal with it. It's like so complex because all the people in your life are affected by this action, and you constantly act based upon that as well if you love your family. So I think that it's easy to agree to disagree on certain aspects of it, but I'm pretty sure that anybody that really stops for a moment and has some introspective experiences with yourself, or if you have a therapist, or if whatever, and to stop for a moment and recognize that sometimes you're doing the very thing that you ask and you pray that other people don't do to you. And it's so frustrating for you at that time. But ultimately, you're only better off because of it. And it's an opportunity to really take a deep look inside of yourself. I'm speaking personally. This was an opportunity for me to say to myself, whoa, Emily Armstrong, who's now part of Linkin Park, who I had no clue who she was, okay? I really didn't. I didn't know who she was at all. So like Emily Armstrong is having this profound effect now on a generation of people that are going to be fans. But I know the other people involved, and then I look into it, and then I speak to people, and then I find out more information. And the more that I look into it, and the more that I find out information, the more I realize it's something that I cannot speak to with a definitive answer of how things should be dealt with. I cannot speak to it in that way. And I think that a lot of people, if you really stop for a moment and you really think about it, you'll come to the same conclusion. I think that most intelligent, introspective people come to the conclusion eventually, oh, I understand that I judge people because X, Y, and Z. I need to be careful about that and move forward. Now, I wanted to say that first. What I was thinking about saying first, and I decided not to say this first, and there's a reason. We can get into that a different day, but this is what I want to say. There really is a reason. This was a thought process I went through. If she was involved in anything, or if she is covering up the abuse of somebody else, or if she has done things and she doesn't want to ever be found guilty of doing, there's nothing for me to defend. Zero. That behavior is inexcusable. It's simply, I don't know. I have no clue. It's not something I know. It's not something I can speak to. And therefore, I want to take a step back first and then maybe come back and reassess the situation once I get more information or once I know certain things, and then move forward. It's just not something that I can speak to. And I really appreciated the perspective that some people put out there. I really appreciated the way that Natalie spoke. I appreciated what Aaron had to say too, absolutely, no question about it. But I really appreciated the way that Natalie expressed, she spoke about her family and how she wanted to get out with her whole family, and therefore she had to do things a certain way. Aaron then said himself, yeah, for me too, I had to do X, Y, and Z, because no one knows exactly what's going on with Emily. Right? And I was given inside info that ultimately will eventually hopefully come out, okay? If it's true, if I'm being told the truth, that there are very significant reasons as to why she is dealing with this the way she is. There are extremely significant reasons. Was I given the specific reasons? No. Was I given like an overall, how would I say this? Was I given an overall, like, little bit of a perspective as to, like, what type of issues or whatever? Yes, I was. And that is that her actions affect other people. Of course, they affect other people as her being the singer of this huge rock band. But I'm talking about her personal relationships, her friends, her family. Her actions are going to affect them or do affect them. And it was made pretty clear to me that because of that, she had to make a decision as to how to deal with the situation. And that's it. There's nothing more or less to be said than that. And even if I have somewhat of a perspective, I can't guarantee that it's 100% correct. I think that Mike Shinoda is not sitting there saying to himself, I need to know every single detail. Now, you could feel a certain way about that. You can be frustrated with him about that. You could say, well, this guy has a profound effect on people's lives, therefore X, Y, and Z. That's up to you. That's not, there's nothing wrong with that. That's your right as a human being to express. It's just take a step back and ask yourself, what created my experience? What created my feelings with regard to this situation right now? If you are capable of saying to yourself, I know her situation, I know what she should have done, I know what well, then by all means, go ahead. If you don't know, you got to be really careful. We know the circumstances that Tom Cruise is in. We know things about his life. I'll say for myself, when I fell really hard in life, and there were significant aspects of my life that were affected, I take responsibility for that. And anybody that was judging me at the time saying, those actions are actually not good for your children, even if you think they are, they were right. I was wrong. And that's it. We know that that's not the way Tom Cruise is dealing with it. Therefore, we are capable of saying, you have zero grip on reality, you're abusive in your daily life, and you are spreading what could be considered a plague of information to a generation that is so thirsty for knowledge and perspective that you now have an extremely, extremely heavy responsibility to deal with things in the most proper and best way possible. And I'll stand by that with regards to, like a guy like Tom Cruise in his situation. But if I don't know, I have to be willing to say I just don't know. So I'm going to hold my judgment until I do know. And then lo and behold, you find out information saying, yeah, Israel, good job, buddy. It's good that you held back that judgment, because guess what? There are significant things, like all of a sudden you find that out. That's significant. I mean, it reinforces the idea that it was good that I didn't jump to conclusions, and that I told myself and asked myself, in what way am I affecting others? In what way are others affecting others? And why is it that I have the perspective that I do with regards to the way that I see things? And that's it. That's the bottom line. The bottom line is that, I have a very significant perspective on things in life, but I will always adhere to the notion that I cannot speak for others. I cannot put myself in a situation where I'm saying personally that others should do X, Y, and Z. And I'm just going to be extremely careful about the way that I view other people, and especially the way I judge them. So, I was literally given some pretty strong information. I really did this time, not just nonchalantly. I really wanted to see if I could get him to agree to, again, where he's not a close friend or anything like that. I'm blessed to know certain people like this because of my experiences in life. But there are certain people that, if you said, oh, so-and-so, whatever, and it's someone, I just won't even bring up the fact that I've met some people that are famous or whatever, and they're not good people. It's just M. Shinoda, Linkin Park, Chester, and everybody involved, the guy that plays bass, all these people are incredible human beings from what I experienced. And that was on a very personal level. That wasn't me just watching them. It was in front of my face, watching their actions, their music having such a profound effect on me when I was so depressed, sitting in the hospital, literally being ripped away from the life and the experiences that a teenager should be capable of having, that a teenager and a young adult should be afforded. And as a child, I wasn't allowed to be a child. I literally was, and I can relate to people that got out of Scientology in the sense that they say that they were never really able to be a child. They were always X, Y, and Z. In my situation, no one was trying to take it away from me, but because of the plane crash and the bus accident and the stuff that happened overseas, because of that, my life was changed. By the way, Jack, you can ask questions because tonight, if you go on my page, I said tonight is an open Q&A, 100% an open Q&A. So I just want to, okay, all right, didn't know I saw that. How can you help? I will let you know. I will let you know. Can I ask a question unrelated to Scientology? Well, somewhat it does because it has to do with science fiction. Yes, Twila Mantros, the walk all the way out. You know it, Twila. Okay. Isaac Asimov wrote, Isaac, I guess, I don't know, wrote the science fiction magazine in 1959. His style blew you away because it didn't seem like his book writing. It seemed he was not Isaac Asimov writing science fiction. I'm not completely familiar with what you're talking about, but I am willing to answer any questions. Although it's kind of hard to answer a question that I don't understand. The words that he used, the kind of look-alike words that he grabbed out of a hat. Okay, so Jack, explain what you're asking though. What's your question? I'm trying to grasp what you're asking. Which, by the way, it's so funny, Jack. If you didn't see my page today, and you just randomly said that, like, oh, can I ask a question? It's funny because that's literally was the the thing I put out on my page on YouTube, on the community page, and on the title of the video tonight. So you're more than welcome to ask questions. So I just want to reiterate one thing. I am by no means even sitting here judging other people who might be judging other people. I'm just generally speaking. I watch myself and I'm careful in certain situations because I know that other people could have looked at me a certain way and I didn't want that. And I didn't feel that was fair. I felt like I wasn't being treated the way I should be treated, etc., etc., etc. So I'm sitting here trying to take a step back within the context of everything that's going on here. I'll figure out a better question later. Okay, that's fine. Look at that. I know him through novels. That's awesome that you guys are aware. You know, guys talking about control groups and religion, I only read about 4 or 5. I'm going to use the word secular just to refer to anything besides religious, texts or people from my community. In high school, they did this really religious high school. They actually did have us read books that were about like I remember that book, A Separate Peace, one of my favorite books in the world. And in fact, this book has a profound effect on the book that I'm writing called Catcher in the Rye. So I'm not so familiar. My point is that I didn't have the ability to really read whatever I wanted until I was a little bit older. Hoist crazy, works, I take hoist on that. I push all my chips on black. All chips on black. All chips on black, Len. But I just find it fascinating that it's like when you need to take a moment and you need to ask yourself, what am I doing? Like, am I actually literally judging another individual in a way that I always hope and pray no one judges me? And what happens is this crazy effect. You're judging people about judging people about judging people about what you think it should be. No, it's not the way life works. Everybody needs to take a step back whenever they're looking at a situation and ask themselves, what about this is objective? What about this is subjective? And take that moment to actually understand the concept of cognitive dissonance. It's such an important concept that I believe it's so underrated, as I like to say, with regards to topics on psychology. Okay, the bottom line is, at the end of the day, The bottom line is your experiences help mold the way you live, the person that you are, and your desires from other people, the way that you want to be perceived, the way that you want to be treated, are going to affect the way that you look at other people and the way they treat other people or the way that they're being treated. It's just important to recognize that sometimes you experience cognitive dissonance. And I really do love the example of myself. Glenn was a good friend of mine. At that time is when I really realized in life this unbelievable, profound concept where it was like, I'm like, yeah, I didn't hate the religious school I went to. I still loved every single one of my classmates. I still did it, but I ran away from that community and I rebelled and I did a lot of bad things and I made trouble and I had cognitive dissonance. There was a part of me that was pulling me to religion, to spirituality, to be with a part of everything I grew up with. And then there was another part of me that was pulling me and saying, you got to see the world, buddy. You got to see the world. You got to get out. Come on, move. Get your butt out of this. Go out and see the world. Don't get stuck here. And then I realized, wow, that's why it was so complicated for me at that time in my life. There was this tremendous tornado of a constant spinning carousel of, I want to be part of my community and I love my community. I want to see the world and I don't want to be bogged down with all of the laws and religious aspects. It is easier in Judaism to get away with like having a certain peaceful component because going to force you to do anything ever. So it's different. I think that other people suffered with cognitive dissonance significantly worse than I did, especially within Scientology. I'm willing to admit that fully, okay? I believe that those individuals do not. But the bottom line is, I know for myself on a very personal level that cognitive dissonance played a huge role in molding me at that age when you literally are starting to become a human being. And then literally just a little bit after that, I go to graduate school to become a doctor of clinical psychology. And in the school, I start to recognize all of these unbelievably fascinating experiences that I've had in life and what they truly mean and how they truly affect me and how did they affect others and how did, all this different stuff. And you're able to stop for a moment and take a step back and be like, wow, I need to be careful before I judge somebody else or look at somebody else from the way that, but that doesn't mean that people therefore have some form of an excuse to get away with behavior that's abusive, assault, any form. I don't care what it is, especially something where you're literally destroying someone else's life. You're responsible for that. And yes, anybody's able to stop and say like, Hitler was a bad man. You can't like, well, he was awkward and he did. I mean, you could talk about, I happen to know a lot about, at least from what people write about him. I never met the man. But my point is that you don't have to sit there and say, well, how did Hitler, what happened to him as a child that made him, no. I don't care what happened. That's just not what you do. We have wars going on around in the world today that it's like blows my mind that people are not necessarily looking at every single perspective on both ends of whatever you're thinking of. I'm not judging one way or the other. I'm just trying to say that there are people on both sides of any argument that lack the ability to stop for a moment. They don't lack the ability. I take that back. They're lacking, I love that prayer, the serenity prayer. I really do. So I've said this in my chat before, but I want to say this again. I want you guys to hear this clearly, okay? This is the prayer. I'm going to say the full thing, and then I'm going to quickly break it down. You say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now think about this for a moment. It's God grant me the serenity, not the ability to accept the things I can't change, not like the comfort. No, serenity. If I can't change something, no matter how much I want to, I should feel high on the note of recognizing I'm not in control of this. This is not something that I can change. It's not something that I can affect. And then the second part is the courage, again, not ability or anything else, the courage to change the things you can. Because if you can change something, a lot of times it takes a lot of courage to do so. But most of all is that last line, the wisdom to know the difference. It's so difficult in life to constantly understand, what can I change? What do I have control over? What do I not have control over? What can I not change? I mean, I really want you guys, anybody that comes in my chat that knows me, especially the smaller chat, this chat that you guys are probably hearing me on right now, you know who you are, all you guys. I love it. You know, it's funny that Glenn popped in tonight because it's you know, it brings up such a phenomenal perspective that I had at a very significant period of time in my life. And I just want you to know that my life fell apart years later. I believe it was like 2008 when me and Glenn were both on essentially what is like a residency at like the largest mental health prison, I think, in the country. But that's a whole nother story for a different time. My point is, it just brought back the notion that my life was solid back then, and like it just fell apart a few years after that. I mean, completely fell apart. And I recognize that I am responsible for my actions. And I recognize that I must take that responsibility seriously, especially with regards to how it affected my children. It's just not something that I can ever just walk away from. How it affected my wife at the time, the profound effect that it had on them now forever. It's just not something that is easily escapable. It's just not. It's not something that I can just escape. It's something that I have to constantly sit back, recognize, ask myself questions about, and try to come to whatever conclusion I can that kind of like possesses, I'm not sure the right word to be honest, that possesses the ability to understand the world. So, you know, I hope you guys, I guess the flashlight won't go on while I'm doing this. Trying to turn on the flashlight because it's getting dark and I can't see anything. Yeah, it says can't turn on flashlight. I have one in my bag. Let me see if I can find it. It's actually a good idea before I just assume that I'm going to be able to go where I want to go, and then, God forbid, end up like even just like my toe the other day when I busted that thing open. I really busted that thing open. I do have a flashlight. Oh, I know where it is. I just remembered where I put it. I put it in a spot that's easy to find. Okay, good. Good, as they say. Good. Okay, because I was about to walk there. That's the beach. It's not. It's just a brick wall. And then you can go down onto a trail. You know, so I feel responsible to have this type of a discussion with regards to my own personal experiences in life, because I think that sometimes that's what happens. I think that sometimes we're responsible to share our experiences and try our best to understand each other and the world and everything that surrounds each other and the world. And it's such a profound responsibility that's so difficult to accomplish. It's like one of the most difficult things to accomplish is to sit back without judgment and try to experience life. It's such a difficult thing. It's simply not something that you can just simply do. It's a profound, you know, it's a profound recognition. You know, it's not something that you can just easily pass by and not address. So, you know, As they say in Hebrew, kotzim batachat, thorns in your butt, like you just can't sit still. There was a part of me that really wanted to talk about this, and I'm really happy that Natalie and Aaron had the conversation, because it gave me the ability to come out and speak about this without offending anybody that experienced the horrific experiences that people have experienced in Scientology. So I'm capable of sharing it in a significant way, and I love that. I'm really happy that I'm capable, that I have the ability and the experiences, the notches in my belt of experiences where I have the capability of talking about trauma and control groups and all these different topics. I did write on my page on the YouTube channel that you guys know which one, that I love to address, as they say in Hebrew, the Hamavin Yavin, those who understand, understand. But what I want to say is that I put it on my page, and I mean it. Tonight is the first time that I'm really doing this. You guys know I just don't want to talk about politics usually. I don't want to talk about religion. I don't want to talk about any of that type of stuff. Tonight, religious questions can be asked, but I do not want to just sit back. I want people to, let's discuss spirituality for however long I have to be live. You guys are more than welcome to ask questions about what I've already discussed, and you're more than welcome to ask questions. By the way, you're not seeing, that is the water that you guys are seeing. It's just so crazy. It's the city in the background. Let's see. Okay, Jack of all trades, science fiction writer Jamie. Jamie speaks like an artist. Okay. It's not like an English composition says scientific way of presenting ideas. Aaron seemed to be getting frustrated. Yeah, that's the basis of racism. Yes, I understand what you're saying, style audit. I know what you're referring to when I was talking about artists' ideas easily. It depends, Twila. It depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But I was definitely, yeah. I mean, I have experiences in life to be able to speak on the topic. Love you too, Glenn. It's so awesome that you're around. First time I was a chaplain for our lockup for criminal insanity. Whoa, I didn't know that. Style audit, that's crazy. That's so crazy. Me and Glenn worked in, literally was my favorite, by far my favorite residency. And I mean, by like a long shot. And you know what's so cool on that residency? I'll bring this up. This is a cool topic. Our main, Glenn actually was closer with a different supervisor. We each became close with, I'm pretty sure, Glenn, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but Glenn was close to one of the awesome supervisors. The supervisor that I was actually really close to is Islamic. Ramadan, all these different things that we used to discuss it, really have conversations. And he could not have been more respectful about the Jewish holidays, about my belief system, about all that stuff. He could not have been more respectful. Literally. I think he did, like, it's just unbelievable. And it was such a cool experience to have my boss, literally my boss. I mean, literally. And not only my boss, but someone I'm supposed to be learning from, so that I can go out and actually take this clinical knowledge and use it in the world. Dr. Khan, you got it. You know it. You know it, Glenn. I loved that, Glenn. I loved it. I was like, it was awesome. He's his own human being, and he himself admits he's not perfect, whatever it is, but he was so good to me when it came to religion. And you would think that maybe he would somebody might think like, oh, he's gonna like slightly offend you, or he might not be as respectful. No, it was the opposite. I mean, he could not have been more respectful. He is a brilliant neuropsychologist. Do you know that, Glenn, on my page where it talks about me professionally on Google, he was one of the people that put in because I went back to him afterwards to I went to an extra year. I don't even know if you know this, Glenn, but I went to another year of school to specifically study neuropsychology, and he wrote like a beautiful thing, and I ended up receiving this like separate little whatever part of my doctorate, but still, I did that while I was writing my dissertation, and it was phenomenal. And I would never have done it if it wasn't for Dr. Khan. You had trauma. Yep, definitely. You are correct, Glenn. Vigilance and always knowing your position within a space saved your ash much later in other situations. Yeah. Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, it was really cool. And, it's those experiences that actually help me wrap my mind around some of what's going on, not only in this little small space of Scientology, but also just in the greater scheme of things in the world. You know, I don't think that I could be a good president, or like, I don't think I have that kind of power, but I do feel like I have a much more, I have a better perspective just in general than some of our leaders in the world today, which is sad because I'm a nobody. And I just think that sometimes I have like a better and more profound understanding of the world around me than some of the leaders. Look at that moon, guys. Can you see that red light? That's the moon. That's not anything else. That is the moon. Whoa, that's a blood moon. That's crazy. I just noticed it right now. That's insane. Stay with me, guys. Hold on. Just stay with me. I'm back. I had to get like a legit picture of that blood moon. That actually has significance in religion as well. But yeah, I mean, that's where I stand. I know I spoke a little bit longer than I wanted to on this topic. But I'm more than willing, because I decided to speak on this, because I decided to open my mouth on the topic. I said it's only fair to allow people to ask me pretty much anything you want, as long as you're being respectful. Yeah, anything you want about spirituality. We can dive into that. We can have a Q&A, and we could just discuss it. It's something that I'm more than willing to discuss. Talks of sass, yes. Why talk out of sass? Yes. That's true, Style Audit. Style Audit, you're a very spiritual person. I was able to tell that. Oh, Glenn is also very spiritual. It's another. All you guys are actually in the chat. You guys really are. I'm trying to think of a good example. I'll give you a great example. Actually, Glenn, not that long ago, there was a client, for whatever reason, that he had met, and they needed specific services that would only come through somebody who spoke a specific language, whatever it was. And he had reached out to me, and it was super dope because, I did connect them with someone. I don't know if it's not my business at the end what actually happened, but it was really cool for us to, me and Glenn, Glenn and I to have a conversation where we don't have to have the same beliefs, but if there's somebody in pain and they need somebody within a specific community to understand them on a more significant level, then Glenn was all in to make sure that they got what they needed. Glenn doesn't have to believe in what they believe or anything like that. Someone needed help. They needed specific, they needed to have that understanding, language barrier in addition to culture. And he immediately did whatever he could to help them get help. And there you go. That's such a phenomenal example. It really is. Twila, you were an altar girl? That's crazy. Wow, that's crazy. That's so crazy. That is crazy to think about. Wow. How old were you how old were you? That's really crazy to be an altar girl. What was that like? Let me know. Let me know what that was like. That sounds like a real experience. I don't know if you had to like answer up to people, that type of stuff. I have no clue what that's about. I'm more than willing to admit that I don't. I would love to know. It's okay, style audit. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard talks about Xenu was a science fiction concept, or did he believe it to be true? If true, where did he learn about Xenu? That is a phenomenal question, actually, Jack. I don't know as much about Scientology, but what I'll say is this: typically, in a situation like Hubbard, his religion was secondary to the ultimate goal that he had, which is to have control, to not only control but control of other people. He had specific views of the government. He had specific views, and he affected a lot of people because of it. And this is when we get into some real, true, like, almost like a sociopath. I'm not saying he was, but just as an example, when you're talking about people that are not only evil, they're so, he talks so bad about the field of psychology and psychiatry. And I'm not saying everything's perfect. There are certain criticisms that he had that he used that are great. The thing is, he wasn't actually criticizing because of those reasons. He was criticizing it because he just wanted to get away with doing whatever he wanted. And he was probably sick and tired of being told that he was sick. I mean, that's a guess on a level where I believe I pretty much would say that I'd push all my chips on Black and say he was 100% aware that people believed he had issues, and that wasn't something he was willing to accept, and it's something that he therefore took, his life and the actions that he went through in life, and he chose to experience the world in that way, and he chose to affect other people, and he chose to believe in certain things. And sometimes, what I think of when I think of L. Ron Hubbard, when you're a little kid and you can't really, I saw a short video recently about this, but when you're a little kid and you can't quite wrap your mind around certain concepts, right? So as a child, so you'll do certain things so that you can adapt and, kind of like survive in the world, right? You're willing to do certain things. You're willing to act in a certain way and whatever else it is. And it's a little bit more difficult to kind of like be aware of like how you affect your surroundings. I actually think kids are really perceptive, but I think that their minds are just not fully their minds are just not fully functioning on a level where their brain is fully developed, and therefore it's not that they don't have any it's not that they have less concern for the people around them. It's just that by nature they will have a more difficult time coming to grips with this and that, simply because of it. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to look at it like from that perspective, that that's my belief. My belief is that he literally was kind of like a baby. He was like a little baby, and he didn't get his way, and so he stomped his feet and he punched his fists, and he used whatever skill set he did have to get his way. And I think he was probably, on some level, I think he was aware, like very aware of what he was doing. On another level, I think there was a part of him that was like so lost in his own little judgmental and whatever, that he was capable of creating such a toxic and destructive cult that affects still today too many people. One person is too many, let alone thousands. Aaron always says that the numbers that Scientology puts out are like super phony. There's only like thousands. It's not like there's millions out there. So he points that out. I think it's a good point to be made, and I'm happy that he has that knowledge and he has that info. But that's one too many. One is one too many. So L. Ron Hubbard took all of his issues and he basically put it on anybody that was impressionable. And he preyed on young women. He preyed on very vulnerable people, because those are the easiest ones to manipulate. You know, they're in that time of stress, they're in that time of whatever, and it becomes extremely easy for him to grab them and thrust them into this absolutely insane, like, I mean, absolute ludicrous ideas, like just craziness. And he has the capability of affecting them in that way. And I think that that's probably what happened. That's what I think. Now, I want to address, Jack, I want to address the last thing that you mentioned, which is a phenomenal question, right? Where did he learn about Xenu, or did he believe it? I have no idea at the end if he actually believed it. I don't think he initially believed it. I think he might have convinced himself and believed it. I have no clue. It's very difficult to know. I think one of the reasons that, you know, there are so many different cults out there, right? One of the reasons that Scientology is a very talked about and discussed group is because it's really fascinating as to this specific situation. It was a little bit new. The way that he manipulated people, what he did, people hadn't really seen that exact mold of action prior to him. I think that he was kind of like the first of a certain kind of people, and I think it was difficult for people to grasp all that stuff and to shut him down. And then he affects other people, and then at some point, I don't know, maybe he did believe in it. If he did believe in it, he will probably, just like other religions, and this part I will say, I'm separating the two, what I just said and now. What I will say is, if he did believe in it, it's not the craziest thing in the world to realize that we know that Jesus had whatever it was, whether it was dreams or talking to God or whatever it was, there was something that affected him. And I don't want to compare the two because one's an actual religion, the other is just insanity. But what I do want to say is that, like all other religions, in Judaism, Abraham, so according to both the Muslims and the Jews, you know, Abraham was, he was spoken to by God. His father worshipped idols. That part of the story everybody pretty much agrees upon. And so we know this. We know this to be true, right? So take any religious figure from the Jewish text, take any religious figure from Muhammad, let's say from whatever, and they express that they have knowledge that other people don't have. How did they receive that knowledge? It's possible that they received it in a dream. It's possible they received it, like one moment that they were just concentrating on a specific subject or thing, and then all of a sudden, there are so many different potential ways in which it occurred. I can't say that I would put my chips on black or red to know exactly what his way of finding out. I don't know. That's the truth. But what I will say is that, like all other religious figures in the world, he did have that effect. Like he experienced something in his mind. Maybe he would say that he saw, he saw Xenu in his dreams. Look at these beautiful trees. He saw Xenu. See it, guys? The red, it's so beautiful. That he saw Xenu in his dreams, or he saw Xenu, in some kind of a, like prophecy, or who knows. But he wasn't even a good writer. I tried, when my friend was affected in about 2008, I tried to read Dianetics so that I would understand better. And it was impossible for me personally. I'm also dyslexic, so it's not the easiest thing for me to sit down and try to, but I do have good reading comprehension. And let me tell you something. That book was written so bad, I don't care who you are, there's no reading comprehension. All there is like memorizing a story and then trying to follow it in your own mind. And that, oh my God, I have cobwebs all over me, with spider webs, cobwebs. And that's what I believe. I believe 100% on that. I mean, that I am absolutely, in my opinion, I'm absolutely positive about that. Um, you know, but, for everybody, things are a little bit different. And for each story, things are a little bit different. And for each experience, things are a little bit different. But I would say that he was a very sick man, and he wasn't even a good writer. He just wasn't. He did not do a good job writing. He had all these new paths. It's really cool. I don't believe that he was a very good writer. I don't believe that he was a very good anything. I think that he was not very good at it at all. And it just caught the attention of enough people where he was capable of pulling off the shenanigans that he pulled off. So, okay, let me see what you guys got going on. Science fiction concept, Blu-ray, okay. You were 13, wow, Twila, that's crazy. Small church, hippie-ish pastor, cool, that sounds cool. With mainly older parishioners, okay, interesting. He used to take yeah, he did take a lot of amphetamines, yes he did. Other drugs too, from my understanding, but yeah. John Attic went through what LRH stole from where you think Xenu Slazinu was from the science comic. Yeah, it was. I don't remember specifics. Glenn, yes, Dianetics is unreadable. Exactly, Glenn. That's the way I feel. It's crazy. It's like psychoanalysis rebranded, I know, right? You're so right about that, Glenn. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You are so correct. And you, Jack, you're correct as well. Like literally, if you want to talk about the idea of speaking in circles, or word salads, oh, he was very capable of creating some of the most brilliant word salads that have ever been put out there for the public eye. Wow, he was absolutely I mean, it was just, that book was unreadable. That's exactly correct. I found it to be impossible to read. There was no way that I was going to be able to comprehend what he was trying to put out there. It's just not something that anybody could comprehend. I agree with you completely, Glenn. Dianetics book repeated the same thing over and over again. Yes, it really did. When you want to be profound, you think of Rumi. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. Very cool. Well said style on it. Well spoken. Written/spoken. You know, this week I'm happy that it was addressed on one of the larger channels. On probably the largest channel in Scientology, in the Scientology world. Now, obviously, as I always say, my channel is not just for Scientology at all. Like, not even remotely. You guys already know, there's a lot that I talk about. And I'm not deceptive. I use my name for this channel because it's really just an open, it's there for, most people know what I'm about and what I'm, whatever. But it's open. But what I will say is that I really do appreciate the people that created channels that were dedicated for the people that experienced the horrific crimes of humanity that they experienced so that they can help other people. I think that part's beautiful. So, for example, Aaron, Serge, literally Serge, Laura, Natalie, all these people, I think it's phenomenal that they've created a space where they can express things to other people that were affected as well in a similar way, and they can connect on that level. Obviously, everybody has their own experience, but they're able to connect. And you know what the biggest sign of that is? If you think about it, you look at like Aaron's channel versus, I'm just using as an example, versus Serge's. They're very different, right? Serge had a profound experience where, for him, one of the pretty much the most important factor that he wants to discuss, rightfully so, is the unbelievably unethical and disgusting practices that they have with regards to the way that they treat children. I believe it's Serge that states this out loud. Kids cannot consent. I'm pretty sure it's him that says that. And it is, if it is him, I want to commend him on that, because that could not be more true. And as you guys know on this channel, I have a sibling that's trans. Nobody's got a problem with it. Everything's cool. We're all, whatever, family, whatever. But he himself has said 1,000 times he could not be more grateful that he didn't have anything done while he was a minor. Everything that he had done, the surgeries, the transition, was after his brain was fully developed at around 25 and moving forward. I bring that up because today I actually heard a really good interview. Glenn, you would love this too, with a very, really, 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 really phenomenal psychologist with regards to that conversation that Elon Musk had with Dr. Jordan Peterson, who I actually am a big fan of. Whether you love what he has to say or hate what he has to say, he's a brilliant man. I mean, if you can't recognize that he's a brilliant man, then you're probably very, you're not willing to have that open conversation of like, maybe your views are kind of right, maybe my views are kind of right, and where does the cognitive dissonance come in, and where does this play a role, and that play. But he specifically made a comment in a different interview about how these crimes are, he believes if the world continues, at some point, they will consider it crime, and they will serve doctors that have done things to children, like puberty blockers, stuff like that, and they will serve significant time in prison because they convince parents to sign papers, or they just say, they get to school to say that the kid, whatever it is, kids cannot consent. So I really like when Literal Surge says that, because it's so simple but so profound, and it's so important. It's like, of course they can't consent, right? Everybody walks around and says that. No. You need to say it over and over and over again. Kids cannot consent. Kids cannot consent. I agree with him completely. I really do, with regards to that. I think it's phenomenal that he continuously brings it up. So, Style Audit says, I took a psych course in altered state. Oh, that's very cool. Juanita, yes, Juanita. Yep. Absolutely. So, like I said, he was just pointing out about kids not being able to consent with regards to the transitioning, and gender identity and stuff like that, which, again, regardless of what you believe, the question becomes simple. When you're a child, should you be allowed to sort of be in control over literally altering yourself and your hormones and your physical experience of your life for the rest of your life? Or, like everything else, should the parents or the people that are in charge of those children be in charge? When you send your kid to school or camp, you don't expect that the teacher's therefore going to take custody over your child. There's a reason why in my program specifically, I don't really deal with like young kids or anything, but in my program, if you're not already 18, right, which a lot of them are already at least 17, 18, but if you're not, the only time that I'm willing to, not speak to the parents is if there's another guardian who says, well, this happened and the parents are abusive and therefore ... But I go to the end of the world to try to get anybody that comes into my program. I go to the end of the world to try to get them I say to them, I will help you explain to your parents what you want to explain to them. I will help you get whatever help you need, but your parents, if they really are, your guardians or whatever, they are your parents. They have an understanding of you and they're in charge, and I'm not. And I cannot do this, and I will not do this. And I feel very strongly about it, and therefore I speak out to the kids in my program, and I do not allow that to go unchecked. You can't just show up as a 15-year-old and, go on like the trips that some other therapists take them on. And, sometimes I'm out there too. But we're very careful with what we do. And there's a lot of, paperwork that ends up being involved. And it's a headache, but it's a headache that is necessary. I cannot and would not do anything like what I do with a mind, as a therapist, within the context of psychological services without, if the, child protective services has to get involved, okay, let's get them in. Whoever it is that really has the control over the choices that you make as a minor needs to be a huge part of your life when it comes to the important roles that exist. So, I mean, it's kind of like it's not just Psych 101, it's like Reality 101. It's like, yeah, kids are not in charge. There's a reason they're not in charge. Because if they were, things would be in disaster, And it doesn't mean kids aren't brilliant. It doesn't mean that they're not profound. It doesn't mean that they are any less perceptive than adults. Very often they're more perceptive. Very often they have a significant impact on the world, the people around them. I mean, everything from head to toe. You could just it's just something that the bottom line is, at the end of the day, regardless of the way that you look at anything, children cannot consent. I literally sound like literal Surge. You literally cannot consent. Like when he says it, it's profound. It is. It might seem simple, but it's profound. It really is. And it goes back to everything that we're talking about with regards to the way that you view other people, because your childhood experiences mold and affect you from day one. There's nature and there's nurture from day one. Minute one, second one in the world. Nature and nurture. I mean, it could not be easy. It's literally, literal search. Literally, it is the easiest thing to wrap your mind around on a basic level. From the second you're born, there's nature and nurture. Everything that you're going to experience for the rest of your life is going to be both a combination of nature and nurture. It just is. That's just the bottom line. You can't, there's no getting around that, There's just no getting around it, For what you read. And his first wife's statement, God, there's a movie called The Master that I think you should see, Juanita. I think you'd like it. His statement was in order to make money. Yeah, that's for sure. By the way, I should have mentioned that. That's absolutely true. He says straight up that if you want to make money, start a religion. I mean, he openly admitted that he, 100%. Yeah, I could not agree more because it's a fact. It's a well-known, documented fact. There's a lot of stuff that I don't speak much about because I feel like it's not necessarily my place because there are people that have suffered so badly. I'd rather them speak about it. But there's a movie called The Master. It does not say L. Ron Hubbard, but it 100%. The guy that made the movie, William H. Macy not William H. Macy. I can't remember the actor's name right now. He passed away. The actor I'm thinking of, one of the Philip Seymour Hoffman plays essentially L. Ron Hubbard, and the movie is called The Master, and it just shows the very beginnings of Scientology and how he, his first wife and the other women and the literally young teens that he was with. It's just sick, and the movie was made really well, really, really well, actually. When they made that movie, I happen to know that they knew that a lot of people were just going to look at that movie and not really understand anything about it. But that movie was actually made sort of for the people that were victims of Scientology. The movie was made for them. which I think is a beautiful thing. I really do. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's awesome. You know, I think that's I think that's what it was made for. And I'm happy that people got to, you know, whatever benefit that people got from that movie existing. Good for him, man. You know, kudos to him. Great job. He did a great job in the film, and the directors did a great job as well. But yeah. What else does everybody have going on now that it's literally? Now I got the word literally. You know, the summer is finally coming to a close very soon. You know, people forget that it's summer till September 21st, but on September 21st it is no longer summer, and it's kind of cool that see the seasons changing. I find to be always a fascinating thing. A lot that goes on. As a kid, you're starting school again. As an adult, you know, especially if you have children, it's a completely different experience now that they're back in school. You know, a lot of people hopefully come off of summer with some relaxing experience, you know, but most people have to obviously keep on working. In my community that I grew up in, there's about a month where it's literally like everybody from teachers to anything else besides the butcher and the baker, it's a vacation. But the kids usually go to camp and you know, there's a whole system. But you know, the summer comes to a close. It's a significant thing. You guys are more than welcome to share with me again. I know some of you already shared, and I ask everybody again. Oh, Juanita, how was I know Puerto Rico, but how was Mexican Independence Day weekend? How was the cruise? Everybody, I'm doxing Juanita. She got to go on a cruise. Juanita's the best. Actually, ironically, because of the change in the season, and you know, my son is back in school now, whatever. So I'm actually going to be able to get down to the org more often, you know, on any day that I choose to do so, because of the changing seasons and the way that things change because of changed seasons. But yeah, today was another relaxing day. Any day that I have time where I go to the lake or whatever, I try to do a live stream, because I'm usually doing a live stream after like a thoughtful, you know, introspective day, you know, that I spend out. I try to be in nature as much as I can. I think it's important. I find it fascinating. I think it's super dope that these boats are almost always parked in that. There's a location where most of these boats go to for the winter time. These docks are empty, obviously, during the winter. It's not like the boats stay here with the water frozen. It would mess them up. And so, especially this really does get frozen in this area in Chicago, right where we are, where you're looking at the boats, that water gets totally frozen, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so the boats are put away. Usually they start putting away the boats like right after Labor Day weekend. And this year, I found out I was correct. The lady at the restaurant didn't even know that I was correct in telling her. This year they chose to go till the first weekend of October is the last weekend that they're open. Ironically, that's Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish head of the year. Not really New Year. People don't even realize that, but it's the head of the year. That's what words mean. Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year. But yeah, October 7th, 2nd and 3rd. So it's that weekend is like the 3rd, 4th, 5th. So I think they're open until the 6th, October 6th, and then they close, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken. Not, well, no. If I'm not mistaken, it's always not like that. This year, they told me directly that it was going to be. You guys see that in the distance? Those lights flashing are not always flashing on the. Let me see on the camera if you can see it. Oh, you can see it. That's the John Hancock building. Those lights flashing. Interesting. I think it has to do with airplanes, even though typically speaking, airplanes don't fly over the city itself. They come a little bit down the lake, roundabout to the airport. Even though, which I only realize this, if you're coming from anywhere, even remotely east, so even if it's southeast, whatever it is, you come up off of the tip of the lake. And they don't fly over the whole lake, even if you're coming from Buffalo, New York. They'll come and they'll just take that extra 10, 15 minutes to fly along the coast and come back at the edge of the lake to a land in O'Hare. For all questions regarding stuff like that, you can see Style Audit. Style Audit knows all that. Style Audit's got all the info. Yep. Do any of you guys care about Halloween? I just started noticing that people are, just recently started noticing that people are, they're like putting on costumes and stuff like that. I just noticed this. I find that to be a fascinating concept, Halloween. It's interesting to me. People that celebrate it. It's interesting. I don't think a lot of people know like where it came from. I mean, my kids never went around, but they love giving out candy to anybody that came to the door. We definitely participated in that aspect of it. But we didn't specifically celebrate Halloween. Again, we very much celebrated it in the sense of bought tons of garbage, really. Junk that kids shouldn't even be eating. But we participated in that sense. We used to buy tons of those big bags of chocolate that have like, you know, every single chocolate bar, the version, little minis. And kids would come and fill up the little pumpkin baskets. In this building that we lived in, this condo building, beautiful building, it was like huge. Like, so you have families that live in that building. The condos, there are a few condos on every floor in a specific section of the building from top to bottom to top, that are huge. The size of, they're even bigger than a lot of the, for sure bigger than the smaller houses in Chicago. And they're even bigger than some of the typical sized houses, like 3,000 square feet. It's big. Anyway, point is that there's enough bedrooms where there's a lot of people that want the security of living in a locked building, whatever, and they have kids. So, you know, you have a lot of families with anywhere between 1 to 4 kids, 4 or 5 kids, and they would come around in the building. So you'd think like, oh, well, it's just the people in the building. When we lived there, no, it was even more so because everyone in the building just goes around the building. So it's like every kid in the building comes along, and there was like 15, 16 floors, which is kind of crazy. Twila, 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 twila.
Bro, excuse me.
Yeah.
Cigarette?
Yes, yes. Bien. Yes. You got it? All right. ¿Cómo estás?
Bien, bien.
Bien.
¿Y usted?
I don't speak, no.
Oh, yeah. And you?
Me?
Yeah.
America.
Oh,
Yeah. Middle East, but America mostly.
I'm from Venezuela.
Venezuela?
Yeah.
Wow. Good English, my friend. Good English.
Very good, very good.
Mucho, mucho. Nice guy. Stop by for a second to talk. Cool kid. Love it. Love it, Amy. Amy, later you'll go back and listen to what I spoke on. I just want you to know, Amy, that I thought about you a lot, and I sent out 4 very significant emails based upon some of our conversations. I've actually been very involved with talking about certain things that you and I have discussed, and you and I agree upon, and I took some action in a good way, and it's all good. But yeah, but there was some stuff that went on, Amy. I don't know if you know, but there was some stuff that went on this week where it finally afforded me the opportunity to talk about certain aspects of the way that we view people, judging people, whatever it is. But Aaron and Natalie had a live together, and it was interesting. I know, Amy. I know, but it does. See, I disagree with you. Amy, listen to me. There are people that have hurt you in general in life in a way where you start to think things. No, even for the principle of the matter, just to clear things up sometimes. I don't want to get into it, in front of whatever. I'll call you a different time, Amy. But I just want to say, Amy, it does matter. It absolutely does matter. There better be a culmination and a conclusion, kind of to tie it up in a bow. And it is what it is, but the bow still needs to be tied around the basket. So I respectfully disagree, Amy. I literally feel like maybe a spider actually got on me. There's so many spider cobwebs that are on me. Can't. Who knows? I'd be freaked out. It's like one of the rare things that I'm freaked out about. If I see like a big spider, they freak me out. I had a tarantula in Israel that just showed up one day. The Bedouins that live by, and a friend of mine came by to take care of it, and they actually looked into it. But yeah, he was not a good writer. Yes, that's true. He sounded was like some mental issue. Oh my God, the mental issues he probably had. No one has to always disagree. My daughter, Amy, Amy, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, I know that, Amy. I'm on the other end at this point in life with my daughter, but especially them teenage girls. Oh boy, I trust me, Amy. Oh my God, I remember those days. Remember those days. And then they grow up, and it's like you look back on those days and you're like, oh, I missed that. Even though it's like, how could you miss that? But yeah, I do. I really do miss it. But yeah, I understand completely. Oh, I understand. Our daughters were probably similar in many ways. Or were. Your daughter is. My daughter is. They're both. Meaning their teenage years, I think, might have been similar experiences on some level, obviously. So I get you though, Amy. But no, listen, I'm not going to get into this specifically, but Amy, if you go from the beginning, you'll see that I literally talk about this, and I'll say this: one of the things I had this good discussion with somebody in the little anti-Scientology community about the fact that sometimes there are certain people that should be getting help from, like, that's what they say they do is, and sometimes it's hard to know, who can I help, who I can't. That goes back to the serenity prayer that I like to utilize. But the point I'm making to you, Amy, is that you deserve the world, Amy. So you deserve the world. I'd say that. But yeah, Amy, actually, whenever you get a chance, listen to... today, I was more opinionated than I've ever been on my channel. I spoke very openly about certain things. And I tried to be very respectful. But I still, Go to changes. I told you it is a total normal experience. You know it, Juanita. Yeah, today one thing next, and that goes back to Juanita. That goes back to what we were talking about before that I just brought up about. Again, I have a sibling who transitioned. Okay, so you're not talking to somebody that's homophobic or transphobic, whatever you want to try to accuse me of. No, I have a sibling who I'm extremely close with and supportive of, whatever it is. The point is that he is extremely grateful that he didn't go through any of those, you know, people people kept him from going through changes prior to the right time in his life where he knew for sure what he wanted. And ironically, he says that he would have done things differently if if the quote unquote grown-ups wouldn't have made the calls that they, when I say made the calls, I mean like made a decision about how things should be. Yeah, very, 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 very interesting. My brother is an unbelievable human being, but is very cognizant and appreciative of the fact that all the choices that he eventually made were done as an adult. They were. But listen, guys, I just want to say that when we hit the 2 hour mark, I'll probably cut it off. But I just want to say I'm really happy we discussed this tonight, and maybe next discussion we can talk a little bit more about everything that we did not hit upon. I think it'll be cool. Yeah, I think that we should do that. We'll get back together and we'll, on the stream, and we'll talk about it, and we'll see what happens. We'll see a little bit more of what the other channels have to say, and other people that are important in this community and have much more of an understanding of things than I do. My understanding of things that I expressed today was based upon pure humanity, like every person in the world type of discussion, stuff that like I believe everybody should be cognizant of. So yeah, that's what was brought up today. So I hope it becomes a positive live one that people can actually appreciate. I'm going to make it public right away. You can let anybody that wants to know about this topic. They might enjoy the way that I express myself. Not positive about that, but you never know. I want people to be able to say what's on their mind. That's why I think free speech is so important, and we have to be so careful not to lose. Someone I know from Canada was saying, "Good, Juanita, you're gonna like it." Someone from Canada was telling me how, like, in America, we literally don't appreciate free speech. Like, even in Canada, like, you don't really have free speech. Like, you can really get in trouble for saying certain things. In America, it's like one of the only places in the world where you can say whatever you want, as long as you're not a literal threat, like, in a way of like provable threat, whatever. Otherwise, we have free speech, and that does need to be protected. We were talking about Elon Musk just in this video. Love him or hate him, whatever you want, he is an advocate of free speech, and he stands by it. And I like that. I do. There are so many people that do. I like the fact that, what's his name from Facebook, and they have different views on the world, but they both have the recognition that free speech is so significant and needs to be protected on such a major level, because we need to be able to say what's on our mind without the consequences of the government or stuff like that. Obviously, there's going to be consequences for any action you take, especially speaking about a topic, but typically speaking, it is the most important thing. I'm going to zippity-doo-dah out in a moment. But everybody keep strong, be positive, try to help everybody that you can. Always care. Landry and stated, yep, yes, he did. That were inappropriately banned. That is correct. That is correct. Twila, I do not use X. Facebook, it's under my name. You guys can reach out anytime you want. I believe that my kids like made an Instagram account, but I've never like been on my own. But I do not have X, Twitter, nothing. I've literally YouTube and Facebook. That's and an email. That's it. So you've been on X. That's awesome, Amy. There is a way for me to look at comments that are made on X without being on it, but I'm just not. That was a choice I made. But everybody have an amazing night, and reach out if you have any questions. YG! I'll leave you guys open for a second so you guys can talk. Good night, everybody. Here, hold on. Let me see if I can do this properly.